And welcome back. As we go ahead and continue discussing our programming journey, now let's go ahead and dive into a look at class parameters. So when we're talking about parameters, strictly speaking, all parameters in Java are what are known by call by value parameters. This means that when an argument is plugged in for a parameter of any type, whether it's int, char, bool, whatever, that argument is evaluated and the value obtained is used to initialize that value of the parameter. Because if you recall, a parameter is really just a local variable. However, in the case of a parameter of a class type, such as string or something like our toy class or my class, pet, whatever, the value plugged in is a reference or a memory address, as we've kind of talked about a little bit in our last few lessons, which makes a class parameter behave very differently from the parameter of a primitive type. So, if you recall, classes have their own variables. And for example, we were to make variables in our main program have, let's say, the toy class object. So we have toy class variable 1, new toy class Joe 42, new toy class variable 2 equals variable 1. With this, we can say any change to variable 2 is, of course, a change to variable 1. We've kind of looked at some of this already, knowing how some of this assignment operation goes. The same thing, of course, happens if we were to do this with parameters that are a class type. So when we talk about class parameters, the parameter, as we have said, is a local variable and it's set equal to the value of its argument. But if its argument is a variable of a class type, this copies a reference into the parameter. So the parameter becomes another name for the argument, and any change made to the object named by that parameter is made the object named by the argument because they are effectively the same object. Thus, a method can change the instance variables of an object given as an argument. Now, this, of course, is not something that's unique to Java. This is a similarity to other languages. Many programming languages have a parameter passing mechanism known as a call by reference. If you're familiar with call by reference parameters, we should note that Java parameter passing mechanism is very similar to, but is not necessarily the same as a call by reference. And so that kind of gets us to this last point here, which is use of equals and equals with variables of a class type. So if we look at this code here, all right, one of the things you'll notice is we are using an if statement here that says if variable 1 equals variable 2, and so we're going to print out equal using equals, otherwise we're going to print out not equal. All right, now this code as it stands is going to output not equal to using equals. And why is that? Well, even though these two variables name objects that are intuitively equal, because if you look at it, we have like variable 1 equals a new toy class, and then the variable 2 equals new toy class 2. So even though they're the same values, you look at the same values are being plugged in here, right? They're stored in two different locations in computer memory, even though their values are the same. And this is the reason why when we talk about, for example, things like strings or other class types, we cannot use equals in Java. Instead, we have to use the dot equals method to actually compare objects of a class type. Now, our example here, we have, of course, the variables 1 and the variable 2. They would be considered equal in this example if we were to replace that if statement with an equals, instead use the equals method that is defined for the class toy class 2. And so over here in Eclipse, we are just doing some quick demonstration of class parameters here. And so in here, we're creating a toy class object, and we're setting it to Mr. Toybox 0. We're printing out that object, so this is, of course, going to invoke that toString method. And then we're going to change it with the changer method here. And if you remember the changer method, what does this do? Well, it's simply just going to rename it to these values, which if we run our code, let me just rerun this one more time. Give Mr. Toybox 0. Now we call changer with an object as an argument. We hotshot 42 because notice in here, what do we have? We don't have an int. We don't have a string. We have a toy class type. So you can put in here a class type as a parameter and it will accept that. So here we say it's a toy class object and we're plugging in for whatever the name we want to be. So that means here in my main method, when I call that, I have to plug in whatever object I want to handle it. So in this case, I have toy class on object. an object is what's going to be plugged in for that parameter because it wants a toy class type object, and so we can plug that in there into that static method, and it will handle that accordingly.